Hello there. Have you ever wondered how a tarot deck may influence the reading that you receive? Well, this concept has been explored through the hashtag samereadingdifferentdecks, which was started by Tarot Magpie, and today I'm going to do a VR to this hashtag. So let's dive right in. But first, a very warm welcome to the channel, whether you are new or returning. I really do appreciate you choosing to watch my video today. And if you have attempted this hashtag yourself, do comment below and share a link, because I'm fascinated by this topic and love to see more people's responses to this. Now, I've got my tea ready, I've got my deck selected, let's dive in. I first saw this tag by Elizabeth from the More Intuitive Me channel, and that was shortly followed by Ravneet's response from the Winds of Reflection channel. Both wonderful videos and interesting deck choices, so I will link them below because I think you should definitely check those videos out. And I decided at that point that I wanted to do a video response to this, but it's taken me a while just to decide which decks I wanted to use. So this is what I've opted for, starting with the Tarot of Pagan Cats. This is, even though it's cats, it's very Rider-Waite-Smith inspired, and so I didn't want to use a typical RWS, so I've decided to use this one instead. Then I'm going to be using the Indie deck, which is the Textured Tarot, which I'm currently using this month. This is a collage style deck. This one is more traditional, hand-drawn. And this one, in terms of art style, is somewhere in between, and this is digital illustration, sort of collage, but it feels more like a traditional piece of artwork, which is the Enchanted Förhäxa Tarot by MJ Cullinane, and this was my favourite deck last year, so hopefully that will be an interesting mixture of artwork, because this hashtag is all about exploring how the style of art might influence the readings. So to remind you, this is going to be the same question, cards, but from different decks. Now, in terms of the question, I have decided to explore the topic of transition, so personal transition for myself. This is a card that I drew yesterday. This has been a theme for the last couple of weeks for me, about transition. I've yet to ascertain whether that is kind of physical transition as I head towards the dreaded menopause, or whether it's sort of circumstantial in terms of financial and jobs, or I suspect a bit of both. So yeah, just need a bit more guidance on that. And this is from the Rose Oracle by Rebecca Campbell, by the way. And in terms of questions, I've taken inspiration from Tina Gong's tarot book, which is beautifully illustrated, and she has some nice 3-card options. I wanted to keep it fairly simple, so we're going to have card 1, 2 and 3, and I am going to go with thinking, feeling, doing. So my thoughts about the transition, how I feel. I guess this is more on an intuitive, whereas this is more logical, and then doing, because quite often our thoughts can get in our way. That can lead to emotions, and then that can stop us from maybe doing or taking some of the steps that we need to take to navigate a transitional phase. So super excited to see what the cards have to say, and let's dive in with the Tarot of Pagan Cats. Okay, so this will be the deck that chooses the cards for the reading that we'll use with each different deck. Okay, so how or what am I thinking regarding potential transition? I'm not sure whether we'll get any jumpers today, so I'm just going to choose a card that feels right. Go with you. How am I feeling about transition? And what am I doing during this time time of transition? What do I need to do? That's probably a better question. Go with you. Okay, let's see what we've got then. We have the Four of Pentacles, the Hierophant, and the Knight of Cups. Interesting. So let's go with a visual interpretation. So obviously Four of Cups here, sorry, Four of Pentacles here. We have this rather stern looking cat who is looking very comfortable, sat upon his treasures. Obviously this card is about coveting money, maybe hoarding stuff. So maybe there's too much thought. So the transition, I think, is sort of transitioning into a more affluent, abundant phase in my life. But for me, it's finding means that maybe is outside the normal 9-to-5 job. And what this seems to be telling me here is that this kind of fear of losing assets, losing the stuff that I already have, material goods, I'm sort of clinging on to that, and perhaps that is stopping me from really going after these ideas that I've been thinking about for a long time. And that's sort of all embedded in my creative endeavours for developing the Tremendous Tuxedo Circus Tarot and other kind of spiritual sort of artwork. That's the sort of vibe, that's the path that I feel most drawn to. And so yeah, there's this sense of kind of sitting on stuff and not really allowing myself to move away from this sort of place of comfort and safety. And so that's the thoughts. So in terms of feeling, we've got the Hierophant here, and it's interesting actually, the Pentacle out of all the other suits are sort of standing out here, but we've obviously got the old master cat who is teaching his disciples, the ginger and the black kitten here. So, you know, obviously the Hierophant, he's a spiritual teacher. There's a big pile of books behind the Overlord cat here, which suggests that there is definitely some learning and some research that maybe needs to take place. In addition to that, it could be that I feel that I have stuff to teach others, but on the flip side of that, it could be that actually the research time is over and maybe I have enough knowledge to actually step forward. And he's actually looking very chilled, this cat. You know, he's just casually lying on this book of knowledge here, and he's just doing his thing and spreading his words of wisdom to his disciple kittens. It's kind of interesting actually that this Hierophant card has all four suits. I mean, normally we'd expect to see that in the Magician. Obviously Magician is manifesting his powers using the things to his disposal, but for me this card would suggest that actually the Hierophant uses them in a more kind of thoughtful way. So, you know, whereas the Magician is very intentional and very proactive, it almost feels like this Hierophant is probably using these with a little bit more caution, picking and choosing the best things that he needs to convey the knowledge or to receive the knowledge that he needs. So yeah, I feel like there's a bit of a tension here between the thoughts, the kind of the logical choice of sort of being safe and holding on to assets, and to how to transition into something that is a bit more intuitive, a bit more being a bit more trusting, and sort of stepping into this role of being kind of guiding others, but also guiding myself. This Knight of Cups here, the first thing that stands out to me is a tortoise. in this deck it's lovely because each of the Knight cats are on a different animal. So the Knight of Wands, for instance, is kind of on this flying fiery fox, and this is a very different energy. And the fact that he's on a tortoise kind of suggests that this is a time to go slow and be patient. And obviously we know with the Knight of Cups that he's a charmer. He doesn't take life too seriously. I mean, this cat doesn't look particularly phased. He's obviously got his eye on something, but he's absolutely in no rush to jump off this tortoise. He's just happy to chill and almost embrace what comes to him, which I feel is possibly a visual metaphor for maybe some of the energies that I need to be receiving. Do comment below, how would you interpret the cards from the Pagan Cats? So I'm going to find the cards from the Textured Tarot. Well, from the Textured Tarot then, I feel like this is telling a slightly different story. In terms of thinking, obviously we have this piggy bank kind of bull, which is a very strong dominant red, and whenever I see this card I can't help thinking of kind of Taurus energy, and you know, Pentacles being very, well, it is earthy and materialistic, but because the coins are falling into the piggy bank, it feels like this card is more about, whereas the cat card was more about sort of holding on to stuff, this one feels more about actually actively checking in with your finances and saving. But it's a strange position that this bull is in. He almost looks a little bit conflicted, like he wants to be a bit more dynamic and move forward with the money that he saved. So yeah, not sure about that one. Something that has struck me, particularly with these two cards, is a very heavy influence with the red here, which suggests you know, maybe is a kind of a root chakra energy that is either blocked or needs to be embraced, and this sort of underlying need for action. The Hierophant here, the thing that stands out to me the most is actually the keys, which I don't recall seeing on the cat card. Now obviously we'll compare each card later on in the video, and holding, he's sort of cradling the book almost, which feels to me that actually the book that he's holding, and he's holding it close to his heart, which means that, you know, this is embedded knowledge that he's been carrying around for a long time, and the keys here almost suggest that, you know, these keys are going to unlock the knowledge, which would suggest to me that obviously with the red robe, that perhaps now is the time to unlock the knowledge, and he's looking very confident as well, and very at ease with what he knows and what he wants to share. Yeah, I'm getting a lot more, I think, clarity from this card than I did from the cat card. And spookily, when I was finding these cards in this deck, these two were actually next to each other already. So with the doing for the Knight of Cups, I've got to say this is probably one of my favourite Knight of Cups cards. I just love the outfit that he's got, and sort of the way that it's been arranged. So yeah, I mean, obviously this knight is not very practically dressed, as we know from the traditional description from the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot. He's, you know, kind of got the armour on, but it's kind of a bit superfluous to requirement. He's got his rose here, sort of showing that he's kind of going through the motions, but you know, he's there in body on the horse, but actually his head is elsewhere, which is the cup above him. And he's actually sort of daydreaming and, you know, thinking about, you know, this sort of lovely magical place full of flowers. So it could be that maybe I'm sort of just daydreaming too much. So that's what daydreaming is what I'm getting from this card. Even the horse looks fairly casual. Yeah, so daydreaming. So it may be that too much thought and maybe not enough action to help with this transitional phase. Gosh, well, I was expecting different, but this is giving me a totally different vibe already. So we have the Four of Earth. The Förhäxa Tarot has renamed the suits to their elemental equivalents, and so we have a fairy being here, and she's sitting on kind of sprouting seeds by the look of it. She is looking a little bit reticent, maybe a little bit like threatened, like you're here to come and take her hard-earned sort of the work that she's put into the seedlings. Interestingly, we have these kind of older looking trees here, and she's obviously tucked away in some, I feel like she's in some decaying part of the forest, but then obviously as Earth, you know, we could have the mycelium sort of breaking this part of the forest down, and she's sort of clinging on almost. So it feels like, because this is at the thinking position of the card, kind of ideas about assets maybe need to be broken down in order to move on, which would kind of reflect what the cat card was saying, but in a very different way. Interesting. And then the Hierophant. This must be one of the most unusual Hierophant cards I have in my collection. I don't know, this one almost feels more hermity to me, because we've got this figure here, and she almost looks, and they almost look like they've been seeking or wandering through the forest to find solace maybe within these snowdrops, and it's almost like they're, I don't know, praying or trying to seek guidance from, well, the natural world and the natural resources that are available to them. This is a very calming card. It almost like, yeah, meditation needs to be undertaken in order to find the answers that this person is seeking. This stag as well, because it's quite, I don't know, see-through is not the right word, but kind of whispery, I want to say, if you think, you know, will-o'-the-wisp. So I feel like this is kind of some spirit guide, maybe some stag energy coming through. And I also notice it feels like there's light coming through the forest. So yeah, finding light, finding guidance in the little corners, the gaps that come through the trees. So maybe I need to look and see, where is guidance coming through that maybe I'm not paying attention to. And I haven't mentioned yet that there's a reflection here. So kind of what is lurking beneath, which is all I can think. So, you know, again, harking back to the Magician card, sort of as above, so below, what's going on underneath the surface. That's the vibe that I'm getting from that. And so the Knight of Water, the Knight of Cups, when I first found this card out of the deck, the first word that came to mind was harmony. You know, we've got this fairy, they are playing their musical instrument here. They feel very seem very comfortable. And then we've got the swans. Now obviously swans are a symbol for kind of longevity in sort of partnerships, obviously being very graceful. I feel this knight is giving off a very different vibe from the Textured Tarot knights. Yeah, this one feels more calming, and there's almost a connection between the meditative state of our Hierophant and our Knight of Water. We've got the sun glowing behind them, so again, yeah, finding time to shine and kind of almost embracing your uniqueness, but kind of with a grace of a swan. Absolutely beautiful card. Now, because this hashtag is exploring how the artwork of the cards can affect the same reading, I'm going to stick to just an intuitive reading. I may do a second part with the actual meanings from the books, but it's quite interesting to see all the cards laid out next to each other. So this was card 1. This was how I'm thinking about transition. And I'm going to say, because it's Pentacles, this is definitely about transitioning in terms of kind of finances and abundance. And so we have our cat that is hoarding, and this is sort of an expression of kind of stubbornness and reluctance. And I've just realised actually we have the bull, which is equally stubborn, so my initial interpretation of this might vary now I've got the cards together. Yeah, so now I've seen these together and I've made that connection with the bull. Obviously this is saying there's some stubbornness around money, and I still am going to stick with what I said about this bull perhaps doesn't know which way to turn. And then with our fairy, yeah, she kind of does look, there's a defiance there, like, yeah, she doesn't want to move from this spot. She sort of found her cozy spot in the forest with her seedlings, and she doesn't want to give that up, basically. So yeah, even though very different artwork, once you see them together, and I think you need to see them together to sort of see that thread running through, it becomes quite clear. Interestingly though, we have sort of visually, they're all these very muted colours, lots of reds, and then we've got this green which is picked up on both cards here, and kind of on this one as well. Obviously green being a kind of a metaphor or a word that people have used for money in the past, which I thought was rather fascinating. Card 2 was all about the feelings I have around transition, and I would say that, yeah, there is this sense of kind of clinging on to something. I feel this Hierophant is clinging on to his knowledge and understanding of kind of money and how we can earn money, perhaps. Whereas this Hierophant is kind of clinging on to maybe ideals. He knows he's got the keys to unlock the answer, but yeah, there's a lot of sort of contemplation around this, which then is emphasised by our Hierophant fairy in the woodlands here, who I really feel is doing a lot of soul searching and seeking spiritual guidance at the moment. So that is a fascinating, and actually, you know, this is how I might do my readings in the future, actually pick different decks but have the same card, and almost as clarifiers like you would with an oracle deck. Yeah, sort of seeking advice, seeking guidance, and maybe not realizing the full picture, shall we say, and just being, yeah, a bit more open to ideas. And so, yeah, he's very kind of closed in. Even this one looks a little bit kind of stern. And actually, if you think about this Hierophant, this idea of being closed in, he's in a little room, cluttered, full of all his books and learning. Time to maybe sort of, yeah, spread your wings and expand a little bit more. So the first thing that strikes me about the Doing card, which is the Knight of Cups, is visually how aligned they are. So we have these sort of pastel-y blues, a lot of white going on here from the cat to the horse to the swan, and then a little bit of gold or kind of yellowy ochre colours coming in. What I'm getting from this is there is a sense of there's been some time of kind of slowing down. Now, quite often in my readings I get the advice that I just need to be a bit more patient, and whilst I was considering what this meant, I was thinking, well, maybe I've slowed down too much. But I think in the wider context of previous readings, I suspect that these cards are saying, actually, yeah, you need to listen to that advice, previous advice, and just take things a little bit more slowly. Still have your eye on the prize. So he's looking into the distance here. This knight is obviously aware of the cup, which is sort of his goal in the distance, I feel. And yeah, just taking time out. And obviously Knight of Cups energy is all about, you know, this character loves embracing beauty, and maybe, you know, I get really bogged down with stuff and tasks, and maybe this is a call to action to just stop, just chill, and actually just be patient and trust that things will happen, but on a slower time scale than I probably want them to. As always, I'd like to thank you so much for joining me today, and if you've made it this far, thank you for sticking through to the end of the video. I don't know about you, but I found that absolutely fascinating, getting different cards from different decks, but doing the same reading. It's certainly been an eye-opener, and yeah, I definitely like how the different cards sort of clarified the message of its counterparts from the different decks. Do comment below, let me know your thoughts, and as I said, if you've tried this already, let me know as well, and how did you find it? I hope it helped you with your readings and your understanding of the cards. Yeah, so there'll be some more videos from me and some updates of the tarot deck that I'm designing. However, until that next video, here are a couple of other videos you can watch in the meantime, and I'm Sally, and this is my channel, Vaudeville Manor, House of Art and Tarot. Bye bye.